Sahara, the world's largest desert, is more than just the expanse of sand we know today. Around 10 to 12,000 years ago, the Sahara was a thriving source of life. It was a giant oasis, a tropical paradise teeming with meandering rivers, sparkling lakes and dense forests. Flora and fauna, such as elephants, rhinos, and even hippos, roamed freely. Sahara was a symbol of beauty and fertility, a world almost unbelievable to see today. Archaeological research has discovered fossils of animals that once inhabited the Sahara, including fish, crocodiles, hippos, and even rhinos. This is undeniable evidence that the Sahara was once filled with enough water to support large animals, which would have been impossible in the dry and barren desert. Beyond fossils, ancient rock art scattered throughout the Sahara offers fascinating glimpses of life in the past. Rock carvings found in the mountains of Algeria, Egypt, and Libya depict hunting scenes, herds of cattle, and humans swimming in rivers and lakes. These images are a window into the past, a silent witness that tells of a time when this desert was filled with green pastures and abundant water. Around 10,000 years ago, the Sahara once contained a giant lake called Lake Megachad, which covered an area of approximately 400,000 square kilometers, larger than the United Kingdom. This lake was one of the largest bodies of water in the world at the time, fertilizing the surrounding land and supporting countless flora and fauna. Furthermore, satellite imagery has revealed traces of an ancient river flowing beneath the Sahara sands, proving that water once flowed freely across this desert. One of the most astonishing discoveries is the Timeless River, an ancient river believed to have flowed from the central mountains of North Africa to the Atlantic Ocean. Although the river is now dry, it leaves traces behind, like veins frozen beneath layers of sand. But the once green Sahara is now just a memory. What remains today is a landscape that reminds us of the devastating changes nature has wrought. These changes began about 5,000 years ago, when the inexorable forces of nature began to reshape the landscape. Changes in Earth's orbit, known as Milankovitch cycles, altered the angle and intensity of sunlight falling on the region. As a result, the once life-giving rainy season diminished, and the Sahara slowly began to dry out, allowing the green grass to fade to brown, the trees to wither and die, and the rivers to shrink until they finally disappeared into the bowels of the earth. Meanwhile, the blowing winds constantly stirred sand and dust, so that the once vibrant green sea was now transformed into a barren sea. Sandstorms continued to rage, flattening hills and valleys, forming a sea of undulating dunes, as if signaling that the Sahara no longer welcomed life. Sahara Desert was not as vast as it is today. Climate change caused by human activities such as the burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, and the destruction of ecosystems is accelerating this cycle of destruction. Increasingly hot and arid air creates swirling sandstorms, carrying dust and sand for thousands of kilometers, and inundating the still green lands, brutally robbing them of their moisture. Every drop of evaporated water, every tree cut down, and every soil loosened by livestock brings the Sahara closer. As a result, each year, the Sahara expands about 48 kilometers southward, devouring fertile areas like an insatiable hunger. Desertification is a silent enemy, leaving devastating and horrific destruction. Desertification is a threat that haunts the economies of surrounding countries, especially those dependent on agriculture and livestock. Water, the most vital source of life, is the first victim of desertification. When rivers dry up and lakes disappear, springs cease to spark life. Water scarcity then creates a devastating domino effect. Without water, crops wither, livestock die, and people begin to get sick. The people living on the fringes of the Sahara are witnessing this catastrophe. Their once bountiful fields have turned into parched desert, and their once refreshing springs are now mere memories. Herders must travel ever farther in search of pasture, and farmers face repeated crop failures, trapped in a never-ending cycle of destruction. Countries on the fringes of the Sahara, such as Chad, Mali, Niger, and Sudan, are facing a brutal and inescapable crisis. Prolonged droughts have fueled hunger, poverty, and conflict over dwindling resources. Increasingly frequent sandstorms block sunlight, destroy crops, and bring diseases that spread like invisible plagues. In the heart of Central Africa, Lake Chad was once a haven for more than 30 million people living around it. It was a lifeline for the countries of Chad, Niger, Nigeria, and Cameroon, a giant oasis providing water, fish, and livelihoods for the surrounding communities. However, the desertification of the Sahara has transformed it into a nightmare. In 1960, Lake Chad covered approximately 25,000 square kilometers, a vast and fertile expanse of water. Today, Lake Chad covers only 1,350 square kilometers, a decline of more than 90% in the past 6 decades. Because of this, farmers and fishermen around Lake Chad are forced to struggle in dry, cracked land, where fish have disappeared, and the soil is no longer able to produce crops. Conflicts over dwindling resources have fueled ethnic and religious tensions, making the region one of the world's hotbeds of conflict. Those who once lived peacefully are now trapped in a never-ending cycle of hunger, violence, and insecurity. Meanwhile, the Sahel region, the semi-arid belt that separates the Sahara from the fertile regions to the south, is the bloodiest battlefield in this desertification saga. Approximately 15 million people live in the Sahel region, and they depend on agriculture and livestock for their livelihoods. However, desertification has left the land barren and their livelihoods increasingly fragile. The UN Food and Agriculture Organization reports that agricultural productivity in the Sahel region has declined by a staggering 40% over the past 20 years due to desertification. The maize and sorghum fields that once provided food are now failing, leaving emptiness and widespread hunger. In 2020, approximately 24 million people in the Sahel experienced acute food insecurity, a figure that continues to rise annually. Pastoral tribes have lived in the Sahara for centuries, adapting to the harshness of desert life. However, accelerating desertification is forcing them to move further afield in search of increasingly scarce pastures. With the reduction in grazing areas, conflicts with farmers seeking fertile land are becoming more frequent, resulting in fierce fighting that has claimed many lives. In Mali, this conflict caused more than 1,200 deaths in 2019 alone, and that number continues to rise. Those who once lived in harmony with the land are now forced to take up arms to survive, and this indicates that desertification is not just about the land changing, but about humans losing their identity. Widespread desertification is like a wound that continues to widen. Dust lifted from the desert is carried by winds and across oceans, carrying particles that disrupt air quality and affect human health and ecosystems. As Saharan desertification expands, it sends a message of doom around the world in the form of terrifying sandstorms. Every year, approximately 182 million tons of Saharan dust are lifted by winds and carried across continents, oceans, and as far away as North America, South America, Europe, and even as far away as Asia. In 2020, a Saharan sandstorm known as Godzilla crossed the Atlantic Ocean and reached the Caribbean and the United States. This storm carried enormous amounts of dust particles, obscuring the skies and reducing air quality to extremely dangerous levels. In Puerto Rico, dust particle concentrations reached 500 milligrams per cubic meter, 10 times the WHO recommended safe limit. Residents with respiratory problems, such as asthma, face serious health risks. Houses are covered in a thick layer of dust that blankets every corner. Saharan dust has also reached the Amazon rainforest, bringing vital nutrients that help fertilize the Amazonian soil. However, ironically, this phenomenon also causes the spread of harmful bacteria and fungi that threaten the local ecosystem. The dust that brings both life and death indicates that Saharan desertification has a global impact that cannot be ignored. With continued desertification, the Sahara has become the largest desert in the world, covering approximately 9.2 million square kilometers. The Sahara stretches from the Atlantic Ocean in the west to the Red Sea in the east, crossing 11 countries including Algeria, Chad, Egypt, Libya, Mali, Mauritania, Morocco, Niger, Sudan, Tunisia, and Western Sahara. It is approximately 4,800 kilometers long from east to west and approximately 100 kilometers wide from north to south. Living in the Sahara means finding ways to circumvent death. This is because the Sahara is known as one of the hottest places on Earth. During the day, temperatures can reach over 50 degrees Celsius, burning the sand to the point of burning embers. Meanwhile, at night, temperatures plummet, shifting from scorching heat to bone-chilling cold. At night, temperatures can drop to near 0 degrees Celsius, transforming the desert into a desolate, icy tomb. Such extreme temperature changes are a terrifying test, forcing every creature living in the Sahara to adapt to the two polar opposites of weather. On the other hand, the Sahara is also known for its deadly sandstorms. Sandstorms are more than just ordinary winds. They're raging giants, carrying millions of tons of sand and dust in their uncontrolled fury. These storms can last for days, blotting out the sun and turning day into night. One of the most notorious storms is the Habu, a giant sandstorm that can reach heights of up to 1,500 meters and move at speeds of up to 100 kilometers per hour. These storms can sweep away everything in their path, shredding tents, burying wells, and forcing humans and animals to seek shelter or face certain death. However, the extreme conditions of the Sahara do not mean the absence of life. Beneath the scorching sun, there is life that refuses to submit to the harshness of the Sahara Desert. In this place, besides several species of flora and fauna that refuse to be defeated, there are also resilient tribes that stand proud, such as the Tuareg, one of the most famous and iconic tribes in the Sahara region. They are known as the blue people of the Sahara because their distinctive clothing leaves a blue tint on their skin. Tuareg are known as conquerors of the elements. They wear tagelmush, a type of shawl that covers their heads and faces, protecting them from hot winds, sandstorms, and the burning sun. Their long, loose clothing keeps them cool even under the scorching sun. For the Tuareg, the Sahara is not a threatening desert. It is home, a land that offers limitless freedom. For them, the endless sands are an open courtyard filled with opportunity and adventure. They survive in this region because the Sahara is their heart and identity, a space that gives them freedom from the constraints of the outside world. They survive by herding camels, goats, and sheep, using these animals as a source of food, clothing, and trade. Then there are the Berbers, the indigenous people of North Africa, and who have survived in this land for thousands of years. They are descendants of ancient civilizations that once ruled this region before the desert became widespread. Some say that the Berbers are the souls of the desert itself. They remain in this region because the desert is their ancestral homeland, a place where their history and traditions are deeply rooted. For the Berbers, leaving the Sahara is like leaving their identity behind, something unimaginable. The Berbers are adept at finding ways to survive in the harshest environments. They live as herders, farmers, and traders, traveling the desert in camel caravans carrying goods such as cloth, salt, and spices. Like the Tuareg, they also possess extraordinary skills in finding hidden wells and recognizing signs of life in the desert. In oases, they grow dates, wheat, and barley, creating small farms that provide them with food. Their ingenious irrigation system, known as konat, allows water from underground sources to be channeled to the fields, demonstrating their ingenuity in dealing with the drought in the Sahara. Ultimately, the Sahara is an epic story of change and evolution, and of life suspended amidst the extreme temperatures of aridity. And amidst this dark drama, there are efforts to fight back. Projects like the Great Green Wall, a wall of trees that will stretch across Africa, are the last resort to halt the spread of this terrifying desert. However, only time will tell. Will we be able to stop this desertification, or will the Sahara continue to devour the world, one grain of sand at a time, until there is nothing left? The BBC reports that every year, 12 million hectares of land worldwide are lost to drought and desertification. This figure is equivalent to the loss of enough agricultural land to grow food for more than 20 million people. Desertification is not limited to already dry regions like the Sahara or the Gobi Desert, but also in once fertile agricultural lands, including Africa, Asia, South America, and even parts of Europe and North America. Thus, the phenomenon of desertification is not merely a local problem, but a global catastrophe, stripping the Earth of its ability to support life, creating an open wound on the face of the planet that is increasingly difficult to heal.